Most of us have heard the story. Before money, people bartered. You had chickens, I had shoes. We'd haggle until we struck a deal. Except, that story is likely a myth. Anthropologists and historians have found little evidence of barter societies ever existing. Instead, early communities relied on systems of credit and obligation. They shared resources, tracked favors, and built webs of mutual support. So, where did money come from? It emerged not from barter but from these existing networks of trust. As societies grew, keeping track of everyone's debts and favors became complex. People needed a simpler, more standardized way to measure and settle accounts. Enter money. Money wasn't a sudden invention, it evolved gradually, with different societies experimenting with various forms. But its essential function remained the same, to act as a common measure of value and a medium of exchange. It was a symbol of trust, representing a promise to pay or a debt owed. And this promise, this trust, is what gave money its power. Think about the money in your wallet or bank account. It's not inherently valuable. A dollar bill is just paper. A digital currency is just bits of data. What gives them value is our collective belief in them. Money is a social contract. We agree to accept it in exchange for goods and services because we trust that others will do the same. This trust is built on several factors. We trust the institutions that issue money, whether it's a government or a central bank. We trust the systems that protect its value, such as laws against counterfeiting and inflation controls, and we trust that others will continue to accept it, ensuring its ongoing usefulness. This social contract is fragile. If people lose trust in their money, its value plummets. We've seen this happen throughout history, from hyperinflation to bank runs. When people stop believing in the promise represented by their money, the entire system can crumble. The barter myth persists because it seems logical. Surely before money we just traded what we had, right? But imagine trying to live in a barter system. You need a new roof, but the only person who can fix it wants a cow, not your carpentry skills. Now you have to find someone willing to trade a cow for your services, hoping they need carpentry work and have a cow to spare. This double coincidence of wants makes barter incredibly inefficient. It limits trade, stifles specialization, and makes economic growth difficult. Early societies understood this, which is why they developed systems of credit and obligation instead. They tracked favors, debts, and obligations within their communities, creating a more flexible and efficient system than barter could ever be. These systems weren't perfect. They relied heavily on communal trust and could be vulnerable to disputes and imbalances, but they paved the way for money by establishing the idea of abstract value and deferred payment. Money, then, was not a radical break from the past, but a natural evolution from existing systems of exchange. The earliest forms of money were far from the coins and banknotes we use today. They were often everyday objects imbued with value by their scarcity, durability, or cultural significance. Seashells, for example, were widely used as money in coastal regions. Their durability, relative rarity, and attractive appearance made them desirable and easily transportable. In other parts of the world, different commodities took center stage. Salt, a vital preservative, served as currency in several cultures, including ancient Rome, where soldiers were sometimes paid in salt rations, giving us the word salary. Cattle, grains, beads, tools, and even weapons have all served as money at various points in history. These early currencies were far from perfect. Their value could fluctuate wildly depending on factors like weather, harvest yields, or changes in fashion. They were also often bulky and difficult to transport or store in large quantities. But they represented a crucial step in the evolution of money, demonstrating the human desire for a standardized, universally accepted medium of exchange. Lydia's golden touch, the birth of coins. The invention of coinage around the 7th century BC marked a pivotal moment in the history of money. Attributed to the kingdom of Lydia in modern-day Turkey, these early coins were typically made of electrum, a naturally occurring alloy of gold and silver. They bore standardized weights and were stamped with the seal of the issuing authority, guaranteeing their authenticity and value. The introduction of coinage had a profound impact on trade and commerce. Coins were more durable, portable, and divisible than previous forms of money. Their standardized weights and official markings made them difficult to counterfeit, fostering trust and facilitating transactions. The use of coins spread rapidly throughout the ancient world, adopted by the Greeks, Persians, and eventually the Romans. Coinage facilitated the growth of empires, fueled trade routes, and laid the foundation for more complex economic systems. It also marked the increasing role of states and governments in controlling and regulating the money supply. Paper promises money's great leap forward. While coinage revolutionized commerce, it wasn't without its limitations. Carrying large sums of coins was cumbersome and risky, particularly for merchants transporting goods over long distances. This led to the development of paper money, a concept that emerged independently in different parts of the world. In 9th century China, during the Tang dynasty, merchants began using promissory notes as a form of credit and exchange. These early banknotes, often backed by valuable commodities like silk or salt, offered a lighter and more convenient alternative to heavy strings of coins. The adoption of paper money accelerated with the rise of banking institutions in medieval Europe. Banks began issuing their own banknotes, initially backed by deposits of gold and silver. These banknotes circulated as a form of credit, gradually gaining acceptance as a substitute for precious metals. Paper money, despite being based on trust and promises, proved to be a powerful engine for economic growth, facilitating trade and investment on an unprecedented scale. The bankers gamble IOUs you can trust. The development of banking was intricately linked to the evolution of money. Early banks acted as custodians of valuables, offering safe storage for merchants' coins and precious metals. They soon realized that they could lend out a portion of these deposits, charging interest and creating new money in the process. This practice, known as fractional reserve banking, was a gamble built on trust. Banks issued more banknotes than they held in reserves, betting that not all depositors would demand their money at the same time. As long as trust in the bank remained high, the system worked. However, bank runs where panicked depositors rushed to withdraw their funds simultaneously could lead to collapse. Despite its inherent risks, fractional reserve banking played a crucial role in expanding the money supply and fueling economic growth. It made credit more readily available, enabling businesses to invest, innovate, and create jobs. However, it also introduced new vulnerabilities into the financial system. Vulnerabilities that would lead to financial crises and calls for greater regulation. The gold illusion, a standard that couldn't hold. For centuries, gold and silver formed the backbone of the monetary system. The gold standard, formally adopted by many countries in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, pegged the value of currencies to a fixed quantity of gold. This was meant to bring stability and prevent inflation, as the money supply was limited by the amount of gold held in reserve. However, the gold standard proved to be inflexible and prone to crises. Economic growth was often constrained by limited gold supplies. Discoveries of new gold deposits could lead to inflation, while shortages could trigger deflation and recession. The system also made it difficult for governments to manage their economies, as their ability to print money was restricted by gold reserves. The gold standard ultimately collapsed during the Great Depression of the 1930s. Faced with economic turmoil, countries abandoned the gold peg in order to print more money and stimulate their economies. The era of gold-backed money came to an end, replaced by a new system based on government-issued fiat currencies. Fiat, the trust fall that underpins modern money. The money we use today is known as fiat money. It has no intrinsic value and is not backed by any physical commodity like gold. Its value is derived solely from the trust and confidence we place in the issuing government and the stability of the economy. Fiat money gives governments greater flexibility in managing their economies. They can adjust the money supply to control inflation, stimulate growth, or respond to crises. However, this flexibility also comes with risks. If governments print too much money, it can lead to hyperinflation, eroding the value of savings and undermining trust in the currency. The success of fiat money hinges on maintaining public trust. Governments must act responsibly to control inflation, manage debt, and ensure the stability of the financial system. When trust is eroded, the value of fiat money can plummet, as seen in cases of hyperinflation throughout history. Crypto and the future of trust. A digital gamble? In the digital age, a new form of money has emerged: cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are decentralized digital currencies, secured by cryptography and operating on blockchain technology. They promise secure, transparent, and borderless transactions, free from government control and traditional financial institutions. Cryptocurrencies represent a radical departure from traditional forms of money. Their value is determined by market forces, supply and demand, rather than government decree. While still in their infancy, they have the potential to revolutionize finance, offering faster, cheaper, and more accessible financial services. However, cryptocurrencies also pose challenges and risks. Their decentralized nature makes them difficult to regulate, raising concerns about illicit activities and market manipulation. Their value can fluctuate wildly, making them a risky investment. The future of money remains unwritten. Whether cryptocurrencies will revolutionize finance or fade into obscurity is a question only time can answer. What remains clear is that trust will continue to be the foundation of any successful monetary system, whether it's based on precious metals, government decree, or lines of code.